The Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Bridges. Buckner. Coleman. Cook. Corum.
Good morning.
Danielson. Donovan. Finberg. Fields. Gardner. Janal. Gonzalez. Hanson. Heisey. Heisey. Holbert.
Excused.
Hawkins Lewis.
Present.
Kirkmeyer. Colker. Lee. Liston. Lundeen. Moreno. Pedersen. Pedersen. Priola. Rankin. Rankin.
Absent.
Rodriguez. Scott.
Here.
Simpson.
Excused.
Smallwood. Sonnenberg. Story. Winter. Woodward.
Present.
Zenzinger. Mr. President.
Here. The morning roll call is 32 present, 1 absent, 2 excused. We have a quorum. Would the good senator from Centennial please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Members, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My personal opinion. This has nothing to do with genocide. That's why I'm worried. Will the clerk please mark Senator Rankin excused? Approval of the journal. Senator Liston.
O President, Mr. President, standing up so high, I look upon you and can only sigh. With a wink or a nod or a twinkle of your eye, you can tee up my bill or send it to die. I would read you this journal if it only to help, but your power and your voice makes me yelp. Please, Mr. President, don't sock me with a fine. I'll even read the journal for you line by line. Please, Mr. President, I've run out of money. Writing limericks, it's hard to do this, to be so funny. So in the spirit of bipartisanship, I'll still call you the boss. I'll claim victory, but you claim the loss. And with that, Mr. President, I move the reading of the Journal of Thursday, April 22nd, 2021 be dispensed with and the journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary. Thank you, Mr.
Good
President.
senator from Senate District 10 is fined $2. You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. Senate Services.
April 23rd, correctly engrossed Senate Bills 116, correctly revised House Bills 1193, 1224, correctly re-revised House Bill 1045, correctly enrolled Senate Bill 133.
Committee reports.
April 22nd, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 193 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the Committee Appropriations with favorable recommendation. April 22nd, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1143 be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed in the consent calendar. April 22nd, Committee on Judiciary. After consideration of merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1090 be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 22nd, Committee on Education. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 236 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. April 22nd, Committee on Education. After consideration of merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1055 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 22nd, Committee on Education. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1103 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 22nd, Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 199 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. April 22nd, Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1011 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the Committee on Appropriations with favorable recommendation. April 22nd, Committee on State Veterans and Military Affairs. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1051 be referred to the Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 22nd, Committee on Agricultural and Natural Resources. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1160 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 22nd, Committee on Agricultural and Natural Resources. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1223 be referred to the Committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. Recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 22nd, Committee on Agricultural and Natural Resources. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 203 be referred favorably to the Committee on Appropriations.
Introduction of resolutions. Will the clerk please read the title to SJR 018?
SJR 18 by Senator Woodward and Representative Lynch concerning the designation of United States Highway 287 from the intersection of State Highway 66 to the intersection of State Highway 402 as the SPC Gabriel David Conde Memorial Highway.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that SJR 18 lay over until Monday, April 26, 2021.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted, and Senate Joint Resolution 018 will lay over until Monday, April 26, 2021. Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read the bill listed on third reading of bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1224 by Representative Byrd and Neville and Senators Winter concerning modifications to provisions of general foreclosure sales of real property.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of the bill on the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes House Bill 1224.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1224. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, House Bill 1224 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Pedersen, Cook, Kolker, Priola. Will the clerk please, third reading of bill's final passage, will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 116?
Senate Bill 116 by Senators Danielson and Representative Benavides and McCloskey concerning the prohibition of American Indian mascots in Colorado.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 116 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any discussion? Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senate colleagues. Last year, the nation rose up and demanded social and racial justice. This bill is a piece of that. Even the National Football League and Major League Baseball have taken steps forward to acknowledge the problem that American Indian mascots pose for our country. And yet, today, the state of Colorado still condones the use of Native Americans as mascots. After decades of Native people asking, protesting, and demanding schools ditch these racist mascots, after 15 years of various pieces of legislation moving through this General Assembly, we finally come to you with Senate Bill 116. This is the opportunity to right this wrong. In committee, we heard from families, we heard from Native individuals, we heard from leaders from the Native community. They came to us to describe their experiences and their years-long struggle to try to convince these schools to do the right thing on their own, to describe the damage that these mascots caused them personally and have done for years on end. We heard from these Native folks who came to tell us about how when schools use these kind of mascots, they allow for students and the community to really trivialize and mock their entire culture. People will wear war bonnets. They will put on face paint. They do the tomahawk chop. They do fake war cries. They even, they do all kinds of terrible things that really mock their entire culture. And it's sanctioned by the school, promoted even. I even heard one young person tell me about how a school leader came and told them, since you're a Native student, it's more genuine that our mascot be a Native person. You should really be the mascot because that's far more genuine instead of participating in the athletics. You know how damaging that is to a young person? And we also have heard from the governing bodies of the Ute Mountain Ute, the Southern Ute Indian Tribe, and the Northern Arapaho, who stand in formal support of this measure to prohibit the use of American Indian mascots. Some have said, what's next? Are we going to ban all mascots? What about the Beat Diggers or the Cowboys or the Vikings? Well, our Indigenous community members are not a culture that ended a long, long time ago. They are our friends and neighbors who work and live with us every day. And they are not a job, like a cowboy or a beat digger. That's not, being an Indigenous person, that's not a job, that's their entire culture. This is the only race of people that we trivialize down to a cartoon or a caricature in order to use them as a mascot. Do these cartoons encompass the whole of the middle-aged girls who came to talk to us about how damaging this mascot process is to them? Do these cartoons encompass our friends and neighbors who we interact with every day? Do these cartoons represent all that is the deep pride and tradition of every one of the 574 federally recognized tribes across the country? No. No, they do not. Some have said this is the only way to honor Native people. That is also an argument that has been made for decades on end. This doesn't honor them, and they came to tell us for hours on end in committee exactly how this does not honor them. There are many, many, many ways that we could honor Native people in our schools by building a curriculum, building relationships, participating in cultural exchanges with the tribes. In fact, that's encouraged and it's even acknowledged in this measure. But none of those things requires the use of a mascot. A mascot like the Indians, the Reds, or the Savages, which incidentally are all in use currently in Colorado. Let's put an end to this. At the request of the Native community across Colorado, including the tribal community and the urban community, we must pass Senate Bill 116 and prohibit the use of these derogatory mascots. Please listen to them when they say, "I am not your mascot." Thank you.
Further discussion. Senator Sonnenberg.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't going to come down here and talk on this bill today. I was just going to sit quietly and vote no. But when you have misinformation coming from this podium, statements that actually are derogatory towards certain people and a class of people, then we have to wonder the nexus of the bill itself. I'm going to address cowboys being a job, farmers being a job. Those are classes of people that are proud people. And to stand here and say they're a job and not a people is quite frankly embarrassing. So what is the nexus of the bill? You're only a designated people if you fit under one person's category or one person's narrow mind of who needs help. It has become very clear that this isn't about protecting a certain class of people. This appears now to be an attack on a other certain class of people. A certain class of people like Arikari Indians, where Indians roamed out in northeast Colorado, the Yuma Indians, where they're not included. But just because one person in this chamber says that they're a class of people that need protected, and farmers and cowboys are a job, we're now supposed to give credibility to this bill. You know, I was still getting text messages last night at after 11 o'clock from many of these schools asking me, isn't there something you can do? The answer is, I can come down and tell their story. But you've heard their story. You heard their story in committee. You heard their story related on this floor yesterday. And there are a number of people, groups of people, whether you call them jobs rather than people. It's no wonder we see some of the legislation we see come out of here when we have that type of mindset. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to vote no. I'm asking you to vote no on this bill and allow those schools to continue to work as they need to work within their communities, within that Indian community, and figure out what works for them. I'm asking for your no vote. And I'm asking you to view farmers and cowboys as people and not as jobs. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also wanted to underscore the amount of time that these schools across the state have had to address this issue already. If this is a surprise to any of the administrators in any of the schools that have these derogatory mascots, that would be shocking to me. For example, the Jefferson County Public School System went through an overhaul back in the 1990s to address the issue. That's a long time ago now. And like I said before, the Colorado Commission of Indian Affairs commissioned a special report and a study of the impact that the use of these mascots have on our state, including the Native youth. But not exclusionary to the Native youth, how it impacts the entire state. What does it say about our state? Why do we even need these mascots? And the conclusion was, we do not. We should abandon the use of these mascots. And there is a process in place that allows schools to do this alongside the tribal nations who wish to partner with them. That system has been in place for a very long time. And some schools have taken advantage of that. They've partnered with these sovereign nations to come to an agreement about curriculum, cultural exchanges, and a long-time relationship. And it is up to those two bodies, the tribe and the school, to decide how that goes forward. That commission report was 5 years ago. These schools have had plenty of time to do the right thing on their own, and a lot of them did. A number of schools have. A lot of schools have abandoned their racist mascots, and it's been a process locally that they've taken charge of, and they've been able to do the right thing on their own. And I applaud them for it. Most recently, we saw Cheyenne Mountain go through a similar process. And they came to the same conclusion that Native people all across Colorado wish they had. So cheers to them. But if any of these schools, any one of them, claims that they haven't had time to address the issue, I find that very hard to believe, since this has been a national conversation for decades on end, and locally at these schools for decades on end. I mean, I've seen it play out, where people have come and protested the schools. Again, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, this was not a secret that it is offensive to the Native community to use a mascot like the Reds or the Savages, or the Indians, or the Warriors. To trivialize an entire race of people down to a cartoon, it's offensive. And that is what they say. They have had plenty of time to address this issue on their own, and the bill still gives them an entire year to complete that transformation. We provide them a path forward to work with the tribes if they choose to do so in a respectful manner. And everything that I've written into this bill has the support of the Native community, as well as the two tribes that are based geographically in Colorado, and the Northern Arapaho who have the existing relationships with Arapaho High School and Strasburg. The bill also protects their sovereignty, which is a critical component, as these are sovereign nations with their own governing bodies. We, as the state of Colorado, have to respect that at all times. This bill strikes the balance between making a very important change and a very important step forward for Native people, as well as respecting the sovereignty of the tribes. And because of that, they are in full support of this measure. So it's not as though I am claiming that this is something that the Native community wants. They stand in formal support of the bill itself. Thank you, colleagues, and I urge an aye vote on Senate Bill 116 to prohibit the use of these mascots.
Having no further discussion, the motion is the passage of Senate Bill 116 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Gardner, Cook, Coram, Scott, Woodward, Lundin, Liston, Heisey, Sonnenberg, Kirkmeyer, Priola, Smallwood. With 20 ayes, 12 no votes, 0 absent, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 116 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Moreno, Bridges, Fields, Hansen, Story, Janal, Gonzalez, Hawkes Lewis, Winter, Kolker, Lee, Buckner, Patterson, Coleman. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 1193?
House Bill 1193 by Representative Gray and Senators Priola and Colquitt concerning consumer protection for acts related to a supplemental restraint system.
Senator Colker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1193 on third reading, final passage.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of House Bill 1193 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Sonnenberg, with 31 aye votes, 1 no vote, 0 absent, and 3 excused, House Bill 1193 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Rodriguez, General Orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes having the motion is adopted. The Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. And Senator Coleman will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Majority Leader Finberg. Will the clerk please read the title of all the bills on the general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
House Bill 1009 by Representative Burnett and Senators Bridges and Quorum, concerning an update to statutory provisions governing the functions of the Division of Housing, the Department of Local Affairs to facilitate housing that promotes state goals for local development, and in connection therewith enabling the Division of the Housing to leverage state housing funding to promote the state's affordable housing and energy performance objectives.
Majority Leader Finberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the adoption of all the bills on the consent calendar, which includes only House Bill 1009.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar? The motion for the body is adoption of all the bills in general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Finberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report as had in consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1009 passed on second reading, order revised and placed on calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With 32 aye, 0 no, 0 absent, and 3 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bill 1009 passed on second reading, order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1095, which is the only bill on the general order second reading of bills on your calendar, to lay over until Monday, April 26th.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes having the motion is adopted, and House Bill 1095 will lay over until 4/26/21 and retain its place on the calendar.
Hanson.
Consideration of resolutions. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 017?
Senate Joint Resolution 17 by Senators Moreno and Representative Escar concerning the Colorado Day of Remembrance of the Armenian Genocide on April 26, 2021.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Joint Resolution 17 lay over to the bottom of the consideration of resolutions calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Joint Resolution 017 will be laid over until the bottom of the consideration of resolutions calendar. Will the clerk please read the title to HJR 1006?
HJR 1006, by Representative Wiseman and Senators Hansen, concerning the rescission of all previous requests by the Colorado General Assembly or either house thereof for a convention under Article 5 of the United States Constitution.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move HJR 21-1006.
Is there any discussion? Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, just a quick recounting of what is currently on the books. In 1963, we had a resolution calling for Article 5 convention on the presidential election by popular vote. In 1967, we had another one still on the books to allow something other than population to be used to set our legislative districts. In 1978, we still have one on the books that calls for a balanced budget amendment at the federal level. And in 1992, we had a request passed by this body to call for an Article 5 convention on unfunded federal mandates. It is time to clear the books. It is time to sweep those from the record. If we would like to have a new debate on a constitutional convention, I certainly welcome that. But I think these outdated calls should be removed from the record, and I urge your support for HJR 1006.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is the adoption of HJR 1006. Are there any no votes? Senators Gardner, Liston, Kirkmeyer. With a vote of 29 ayes, 3 no votes, 0 absent, and 3 excused, HJR 1006 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez, Kolker, the Majority Leader, Moreno, Priola, Story, Pedersen, Danielson. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 017? The Senate will stand in a brief recess. The Senate will come back to order. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Joint Resolution 017?
Senate Joint Resolution 17 by Senator Moreno and Representative Escar concerning the Colorado Day of Remembrance of the Armenian Genocide on April 26, 2021.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Joint Resolution 17 and request that it be read at length.
Will the clerk please read Senate Joint Resolution 017 at length?
Senate Joint Resolution 17 by Senators Moreno and Representative Escar concerning the Colorado Day of Remembrance of the Armenian Genocide on April 26, 2021. Whereas this year marks the 106th anniversary of the first genocide of the 20th century, the Armenian Genocide, when 1.5 million men, women, and children of Armenian descent were victims of a brutal genocide perpetrated by the Turkish Ottoman Empire from 1915 to 1923. And whereas as a result there are fewer than 75,000 indigenous Armenians living within the borders of modern Turkey today, and whereas the contemporary United States ambassador to the Ottoman Empire, Harry Moncarthur Sr., stated in 1915, whatever crimes the most perverted instincts of the human mind can devise, and whatever refinements of persecutions and injustice the most debased imagination can conceive, became the daily misfortunes of this devoted people. And whereas the killing of the Armenian people was followed by the systematic destruction of many of the world's oldest churches, cathedrals, and crossstones, as well as schools, libraries, treasures of art, and cultural monuments that continue to this day in an attempt to eliminate all traces of a noble civilization with a history of more than 3,000 years. And whereas Colorado newspapers widely reported the extermination of the Armenian people, and Colorado communities generously raised funds to assist the survivors, known at this time as the Starving Armenians, as illustrated in the January 16, 1919 Denver Post front page story titled Campaign for Armenian Relief is Making Splendid Headway, and a July 30, 1922 Denver Post front page story titled $60 million from U.S. Keeps Armenians from Extinction. And whereas in response to the genocide and at the behest of President Woodrow Wilson and the U.S. State Department, the Near East Relief Organization was founded and became the first congressionally sanctioned American philanthropic effort created exclusively to provide humanitarian assistance and rescue the Armenian nation and other Christian minorities from annihilation, and many of those rescued went on to survive, revive, and thrive outside of their ancestral homeland all over the world, and specifically in the state of Colorado. And whereas Near East Relief succeeded with the active participation of many Coloradoans, including Governor Olive Shoup, who concurrently served as the Colorado State Chairman for Near East Relief in delivering $117 million of assistance and saving more than 1 million refugees, including 132,000 orphans between 1915 and 1930 by delivering food, clothing, and materials for shelter and setting up refugee camps, clinics, hospitals, and orphanages. And whereas Turkey's ongoing denial of the Armenian genocide paved the way for another tragedy in late 2020 when Turkey aided Azerbaijan invaded the Republic of Artsakh, a region of the Armenian homeland, in an onslaught that, despite a ceasefire announcement, continues to this day through Azerbaijan's unwillingness to release nearly 200 Armenian prisoners of war, forbiddance of the return of Armenian refugees to Hadrat and other occupied regions of Artsakh, and refusal of international missions to monitor the nearly 1,500 antique and medieval Armenian culture sites that have recently come under Azerbaijan's control. And whereas each April, Armenians throughout the world honor their martyrs and commemorate the Armenian genocide, a term first used by Raphael Lemkin, the legal scholar who coined the word genocide and drafted the United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, explaining on CBS television in 1949 that he became interested in genocide because it happened to the Armenians and their criminals were not published. And whereas we commend Armenians of Colorado, Inc., the Colorado Coalition for Genocide Awareness and Action, and other human rights organizations for their ongoing efforts to bring awareness and to educate the community, including our youth, about the Armenian genocide, as illustrated in the production of Emmy-winning composer Denise Gentilini's I Am Alive musical. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 73rd General Assembly of the State of Colorado, the House of Representatives concurring herein, 1, that we pause in our deliberations to commemorate the 106th anniversary of the Armenian genocide, which will be formally recognized at a memorial service at 5 p.m. on Saturday, April 24, 2021, at the Armenian Garden, established in 1982 in the Northeast Quadrant on the State Capitol grounds with a memorial plaque, and renovated and renewed in 2015 with the addition of the Kashgar Memorial and a replica of a destroyed medieval Armenian headstone. that we, the members of Colorado General Assembly, hereby acknowledge April 26, 2021, and April 26 of each year thereafter as Colorado Day of Remembrance of the American Genocide. And 3, that we express support for efforts toward constructive and durable relations between the country of Armenia, the homeland for the Armenian people, and its neighbors based on acknowledgement of the facts and ongoing consequences of the Armenian Genocide, and a fair, just, and comprehensive international resolution of this crime against humanity. Be it further resolved that copies of this joint resolution be sent to the Armenians of Colorado and former State Representative Cole Wist.
Is there any discussion? Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, thank you for taking a brief pause in our deliberations to recognize an annual resolution around the Armenian genocide. This weekend, members of the Armenian community will gather here at the state capitol in the northeast quadrant that was referenced to observe the Armenian genocide, to grieve family members, friends, neighbors lost in the genocide. And colleagues, this is something that is dearly personal to the Armenian community, especially with, the events over the summer where there was actually graffiti and damage done to the Armenian Khachkar Memorial. So it is a sensitive time for the Armenian community, given that what they stand for and the recognition of this genocide, that we should always remember. We should never forget what happened to the Armenians, and that we should continue each year to recognize this tragic event. The state of Colorado has a headstone, a memorial as well on the grounds in Armenia. We actually planted a tree in remembrance of Colorado, in remembrance of the Armenian genocide and the unique Colorado-Armenia connection. And so, colleagues, there is also a piece of Colorado in Armenia. So it is important to continue this relationship, this dialogue that we have with the Armenian community, and continue to recognize the efforts of the Armenian community. Colleagues, the language of the resolution differed slightly in years past, and that did not go without notice and acknowledgement from colleagues in this chamber, and I just want to address that issue. It does relate to a Senate resolution that we did pass in 2019, Senate Joint Resolution 1912, between myself and former Senator Jack Tate, that we acknowledged this, the territory of Artsakh that was under Armenian control, but through recent events has now transferred to Azerbaijan. And this is particularly painful for the Armenian community because in a recent conflict, they lost control of that territory to the state of Azerbaijan. And there are many accounts that this particular region, that the Armenian community is being excluded from it, that their heritage is being denied access to. So I just want to acknowledge that that is new language and is not without conflict. It is not without, I had a conversation with the consulate of Azerbaijan about this. And colleagues, I think in the future, we will need to be cautious when we wade into these issues. Because the reality is the state legislature is not equipped, is not designed to get involved in international affairs. That is not our role. But what is our role is acknowledging what has happened to the Armenians, what happened in the genocide, and to continue to support the constituents, the Armenians in each one of our districts, in acknowledgement of the pain and suffering that they have gone through, both in contemporary times and in the past. And with that, colleagues, I do request your support for Senate Joint Resolution 17.
Further discussion. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Joint Resolution 17 because oftentimes history can be uncomfortable. And when we are uncomfortable is when we learn the most. It's when we grow the most. And recognizing the genocide that happened nearly just over 100 years ago is important to understand history. We often talk about Nazi Germany and what happened there, but by many accounts, this was the first modern genocide that they took a blueprint from. And the folks that committed that genocide, or the institutions, I should say, still refuse to acknowledge it happened. And we are in a situation today where we may be repeating that. And so when history is uncomfortable, when it is hard for us to admit and say what happened, is probably when we grow the most. And I've had the privilege to travel to Turkey and work with many elected officials in Turkey, and the young folks there know what happened. The young people there know that they have to do healing and they have to admit that this happened, and they're willing to be uncomfortable when they talk about history. And so recognizing this genocide is incredibly important, because if we aren't uncomfortable, if we don't recognize genocide, if we don't talk about why genocide occurs, then we're just going to keep doing it. And so I rise in strong support of this resolution.
Having no further discussion, the motion before the body is the passage of SJR 017. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 017 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Gonzalez. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request that the current roll call be added as co-sponsors.
Seeing no objection, the current roll call will be added as co-sponsors on Senate Joint Resolution 017. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, we do have just a few guests here that came specifically for the consideration of this resolution. I see one of our guests in the gallery. There's also a guest in the lobby. If we can just welcome our guests and thank them for being here. Thank you, colleagues.
Consideration of House adherence. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1115 lay over until April 26th.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1115 will lay over until Monday, April 26, 2021. Message from the Governor.
Thursday, April 22nd, Colorado Senate. Honorable members of the Colorado Senate, pursuant to authority vested in the office of the Governor of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to inform you that I have approved and filed with the Secretary of State the following acts. Senate Bill 84, Local Government Authority Roughed-In Roads, approved on Thursday, April 22nd at 1:07 p.m. Senate Bill 20, Energy Equipment and Facility Property Tax Valuation, approved on Thursday, April 22nd, 1:13 p.m. Senate Bill 145, Extending Expiring Tax Checkoffs, approved on Thursday, April 22nd, 1:30 p.m.
Signing bills.
April 22nd, the President has signed House Bills 1061, 1146, 1147, and 1204.
Members, would the Capitol Choir please organize so that today we are celebrating two birthdays. One of them is Senator Scott, and the other is for tomorrow, our very own Secretary, Cindy Markwell.
Senate President? Senate President? Come on, it's gonna happen. You got,
He doesn't want to mess up his due. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cindy and Senator Scott. Happy birthday to you. I love it.
Announcements. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we are going to be doing a special orders consent calendar made up of the bills that came out of the Appropriations Committee this morning that were placed on the consent calendar. We are still waiting for those committee reports. They should be here momentarily, and then we will distribute that calendar of those bills and get that calendar out of the way, and then we will be ready to adjourn for the weekend. But for now, Mr. President, I request that we stand in a brief recess as we wait for those reports.
Seeing no objection, the Senate will stand in a recess. The Senate will come back to order. Members, before we take up consideration, a second reading of Bill's consent calendar, will the sergeants please escort the majority leader from the lower chamber out of this esteemed body? Maybe just today we'll allow it. The majority leader can stay. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate take up House Bills 1013, 1044, 1136, Senate Bill 22, 29, 35, 39.
Committee reports.
Never mind.
April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1013 be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation be placed on the consent calendar. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1044 be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1099 be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. House Bill 1136 be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 11 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 22 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 29 be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 35 be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 39 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 85 be postponed indefinitely. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 94 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 98 be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 101 be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 103 be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 126 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee of the whole. Favorable recommendation. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 166 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 174 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 189 be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 201 be amended as follows. So amended be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 244 be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation. April 23rd, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 247 be referred to the committee of the whole with favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate take up House Bills 1013, 1044, 1136, Senate Bills 22, 29, 35, 39, 101, 166, 201, and 247 on special orders consent calendar at the hour of 10:35 a.m.
You have heard the motion. The motion is that the Senate will take up those bills listed as outlined by the Majority Leader on General Order, Second Reading Bills Consent Calendar, special orders. This requires a 2/3 vote at the hour of 10:35. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted, and the Senate will take up those bills listed under special orders. Special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special order, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Coleman will take the chair.
Committee will come to order, and the Colt rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of all the bills in special order, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
House Bill 1013 by Representatives Snyder and Van Winkle and Senators Colquitt concerning the division of domestic stock concern into multiple resulting domestic stock concerns in connection therewith making an appropriation. House Bill 1044 by Representatives Hooton and Larson and Senators Bridges and Gardner concerning allowing a manufacturer of vinous liquors to maintain licensed premises consisting of multiple non-contiguous locations and in connection therewith making an appropriation. House Bill 1136 by Representatives Tipper and Carver and Senators Lee and Gardner concerning modifications to policies governing judicial division retirees returning to temporary judicial duties and in connection therewith making an appropriation. Senate Bill 22 by Senators Bridges and Smallwood and Representatives Snyder and McKean concerning confirmation of receipt of written request to perform an audit of Medicaid provider prior to the commencement of the audit. Senate Bill 29 by Senators Fenberg and Representative Garnett and Benavides concerning in-state tuition classification for members of American Indian tribes with historical ties to Colorado. Senate Bill 35 by Senators Rodriguez and Representatives Byrd concerning restrictions on certain practices by third-party food delivery services. Senate Bill 39 by Senators Zenzinger and Heisey and Representatives Caraveo and Pelton concerning the elimination of sub-minimum wage employment by providing supports to ensure successful transitions for individuals currently working in sub-minimal wage jobs. Senate Bill 101 by Senators Fields and Story and concerning the continuation of the registration of direct entry midwives and in connection therewith implementing the recommendations contained in the 2020 Sunset Report by the Department of Regulatory Agencies. Senate Bill 166 by Senators Rankin and Fenberg and Representative McCluskey and Will concerning the implementation of recommendations from the Colorado Fire Commission. Senate Bill 201 by Senators Danielson and Pedersen concerning stricter enforcement for child care facilities. Senate Bill 247 by Senators Fenberg and Holbert and Representative Escar and McKean concerning the procedures of independent redistricting commissions.
Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the adoption of all the bills on the consent calendar and their associated committee reports, which includes House Bills 1013, 1044, 1136, Senate Bill 22, along with the Health and Human Services Committee report and the Appropriations Committee report, Senate Bill 29, along with the Education Committee report, Senate Bill 35, along with the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee report, Senate Bill 39, along with the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee report and the Appropriations Committee report, Senate Bill 101 and the Health and Human Services Committee report, Senate Bill 166, along with the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee report and the Appropriations Committee report, Senate Bill 201, along with the Health and Human Services Committee report and the Appropriations Committee report, and Senate Bill 247, along with the State Veterans Military Affairs Committee report.
Is there any discussion on any of the committee reports on the consent calendar? The motion before the body is adoption of all the committee reports in the special order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee reports are adopted. Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar? The motion before the body is the adoption of all the bills on special order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report has had in consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 22 as amended, 29 as amended, 35 as amended, 39 as amended, 101 as amended, 166 as amended, 201 as amended, 247 as amended. Pass on second reading, order engrossed and placed in the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bills 1013, 1044, and 1136. Pass on second reading and order revised and placed in the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 32 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 3 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 022 as amended, Senate Bill 029 as amended, Senate Bill 035 as amended, Senate Bill 039 as amended, Senate Bill 101 as amended, Senate Bill 166 as amended, Senate Bill 201 as amended, Senate Bill 247 as amended. Passed on second reading and ordered and grossly placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1013, House Bill 1044, House Bill 1136. Passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Announcements. Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to announce that the Joint Committee, Statutory Revision Committee, will be meeting today at 1:30 at the Old State Library. We have 5 issues to take up.
Senator Colker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to inform members of an announcement for tomorrow. The Colorado chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention will be doing their campus walk starting at 11 a.m. I have formed a team for family and friends to raise money for this excellent foundation to raise awareness for suicide prevention here in Colorado. Thank you.
Are there further announcements? Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I think we just have one bill to read across. You do not need to be here for that. Mr. President, I move that the Senate recess until 10:45 a.m.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will stand in recess until 10:45 today.